This is Betting Weekly Extra Time, Europa League and Europa Conference League edition. You're with Dan Roebuck and returning RJ, Steve Wyss and Will White. The show is in profit this seasen. Don't be so surprised. Plus 7.33% return on investment, mainly thanks to RJ. Had a really good quarter-final of both of these competitions for us. So hat tipped to RJ. UEL futures market we're going to talk about briefly first, fellas. Could push the P&L up even further with Leverkusen and Atalanta on side. Steve, what do you make of the current situation for the show and the current prices at the minute for the Europa League? Leverkusen are the favourites, minus 134.
Yes, hello everyone, and we're at the exciting time now of the Europa League and the Conference League. Will has got two big outright tickets for us on the show at Leverkusen, 20-1, and Atalanta was that 25-1, Will, or 20? I think it was 25-1. But so I mean that's with the dream final for the show, and in terms of the odds, that's the favourite for the final. If I was to take anyone now on the outrights, I would be Atalanta at plus 300. I think they would be if I had to pick one. That's obviously good news for the show. I certainly expect them to make the final, and Leverkusen, I think, should have enough about them as well. Hopefully we can cash one of those big tickets.
RJ, what do you make of the futures as it looks at the minute? Leverkusen minus 134, Atalanta plus 300, Roma 5-1, Marseille 10-1. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to argue against Leverkusen, unbeaten in 47 matches, but, is their luck coming to an end, right? They've had some dodgy performances. They've had some late heroics quite frequently in the season. And, could that come to cost them against these, some of these superior sides in England and in Europe? I think it could, but I would probably be backing Atalanta as well at plus 300. Outside of that, I have a hard time seeing Roma or Marseille come through as the champs here.
It's strange though, isn't it, Will? Because if you were to I don't know what the prices were at the start of the season. I should have looked at this, but I suspect that Roma and Marseille, I mean, there is more European pedigree in those two teams than there is Leverkusen, Atalanta. If you'd have transported someone from 5 years ago, 10 years ago to look at the prices now, they won't believe you. I mean, it's interesting the way that this worked out in terms of the futures because, whatever we think about Roma and Marseille this season, they are in the final four of the Europa League.
Yeah, Roma and Marseille. I'm pretty sure that Roma would have been shorter than Leverkusen at the beginning of the season, and Marseille maybe as well. But what's more relevant, the form over the current season of the current Leverkusen, Roma and Marseille teams, or the last 100 years of these teams? It's various iterations in European competition. I think, Leverkusen have proven this season that they deserve to be favourites. And calling these things before they happen is the name of the game when it comes to betting. Right now, Leverkusen are slightly too short for me, and so I'm starting to look at hedging options to lock in some sort of profit off a 20-1 shot and a 25-1 shot, respectively.
Yeah, well, look at that, because one in particular hedge that you've gone for. Europa League trends that have been profitable this season, over 2.5, over 3.5, and both teams to score. Yes, you're making money if you played in every single one of the matches that we've seen in the group stages and the knockout stages of the Europa League. We've got 2 Europa League games to preview. We'll have a look at the Conference League futures as well, plus 2 games there. Plenty of picks as well. Marseille, Atalanta, we're going to start with all the games Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern. There are no early kickoffs in either competition. Marseille plus 150 for the first leg here. Atalanta plus 180. Marseille, Steve, have won just 7 of 14 games in Europe this season, but are through to the semis, as I've mentioned, and only 1 away win in 7. Do they have to win at home here to go through? Is the home game key, do you think, at Velodrome?
Oh, yeah. If they don't win the first leg, they've got no chance at all. I think Atalanta are much the superior side. Every time I've watched them this season in Europe, they look mightily impressive. And I don't know why they're as low as 6th in Serie A. Seriously, they've looked just as good as Milan when I've seen them play, better than Roma. It's strange. They feel like they should be a top 3 side in Serie A, the way they play. So I think Marseille have got a massive job ahead of them. to qualify for the final. But it's an achievement for Marseille to have made it this far.
What do you like picks-wise, Steve, for this one?
It's got to be over 2.5 goals down at -115. It's been a regular theme for me in Europe, back in the overs with Marseille games. I don't know how the match against Benfica only ended 1-0 in the second leg. I feel like an early goal, it could have gone, it really exploded. But as things transpired, it just, it managed to stay 0-0 for too long. I don't think that'll be the case here. We know both sides have got goals in them. Atalanta actually average 2.5 goals away from home in Europe this season. Marseille averaged 2.5 goals in their home European games. So, there's a really strong strength of each side is going forwards, and not many clean sheets between them. I think since Gasset took over, it's 3 clean sheets in 14 for Marseille. Atalanta have only kept 2 clean sheets in 13. So everything's pointing towards goals. And I think the pressure's actually going to be off in the first leg a bit more. The nerves might come more in the second leg, weirdly. So, I think you're making I thought the goal line would be 2.75 or even on the 3 door. So over 2.5 just stuck out really, really well here with BetRivers at -115.
Will, you are of a similar opinion?
Yeah, same bet for me, actually. Over 2.5, -112. We've had success in this season's Europa League and Conference League betting overs. It feels like sometimes the market just hangs a 2.5 line because it doesn't know what else to hang. This should be 2.75 or 3 as the main line, in my opinion. Interestingly, every single League 1 match over the weekend went over 2.5. It was almost a record-breaking number.
Bar the Friday night game.
Bar the Friday. What was the Friday night game? Do you remember?
It was a 1-1 draw. Every game went both teams to score, yes.
Okay. But every game on the Saturday and Sunday went over 2.5, including an incredible 5-4 Brest win away. I mean, there's something happening in Ligue 1 at the moment. I'm not sure exactly what it is, what we can attribute it to, but Marseille is certainly part of that. Since Gasset took over, 10 of 14, over 2.5 for Marseille, 9 of 14 for Atalanta over the same period. It's just a bit too low, this line. 2 attacking-minded teams. It all aligns for a bet on overs here. I would also slightly lean Atalanta on the draw no bet at +110, but I'm going to leave that just because I think Atalanta would be very happy with a draw here. We've got the outright position already. And Marseille do have quite a big home advantage. So, yeah, it's just the overs for me.
RJ, what's your play in this one?
Yeah, thanks, Dan. I like both teams to score -135, although it looks like it's drifted a little to -143. Not a ton of value there, but I really do like this play. This is the first time that these teams will meet in UEFA club competition. I guess you could say adding a layer of unpredictability. Marseille is looking to reach the Europa League final for the 4th time, and Atalanta is eyeing their first European final. Marseille has had a challenging run. I'd say in form, only 1 win in their last 5 across all competitions. That's a lie. I meant they've had, win, draw, win for the last 4. So they've actually been in pretty good form. Patrick Aubameyang obviously will be crucial. And I think the big factor here is Marseille have struggled at home against Italian teams historically. Atalanta has had pretty strong form as well. 3 wins in their last 4, and they actually will head to the Coppa Italia final domestically. They will be without a defender, a Swedish defender, Isaac Hein. He'll be suspended for this match. And, the impact here is, the game could hinge on the performances, as I said, of Patrick Aubameyang and the tactical setup. I think Atalanta's strong away record, including their surprising win against Liverpool, it kind of produces just some unpredictability. And I think, like the boys have said, both these sides have attacking mindsets. They're both very capable of finding the back of the net. They're not sides that you look at to typically keep clean sheets. So both teams to score -135. I guess now -143 is my official pick in this match.
Have we seen a little bit of an upswing, Steve, in Marseille with Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, scoring out of the first minute of the week? I mean, I thought he looked all right last night. I thought Marseille looked all right, to be honest, against a decent long side.
Surprisingly so. As I said on the weekend preview show, I fully expected Lens to win that game. There's a spirit in Marseille, a real heart of a lion, perhaps you might say, and it's always been the case down the years. Will's right. There is a strong home advantage, and the crowd will try and get them over the line here, and that's where you can't underestimate them. Aubameyang has saved his best soccer for this competition this season, so. Yeah, and then obviously they're a big underdog, and they quite like that. So that's where you can't completely underestimate Marseille. You're right. They have played better recently than I think we thought they would.
Incidentally, Steve, you can thank Will for bringing up that crazy Brest game as well at the weekend, which Steve was on the wrong side as well. James Eastham actually pointed out Ligue 1 final. Did you say 3 months of the season? If you play over 2.5 goals, you have made money something like the last 3 or 4 years. So it's an interesting one when it comes to goals back end of the campaign in the French top flight. That's Marseille against Atalanta. Roma Leverkusen we can tackle next. Again, 3 p.m. Eastern. Roma are +270, Leverkusen +102. Will has got a play in this, which we'll get to shortly. But let's get RJ and Steve's thoughts first of all. RJ, you referenced it before. I mean, there is so many late goals for Leverkusen here. 16 in the 90th minute or later in all competitions this season. 7 of the last 11 have come in the 80th minute or later. I mean, that's, to me, that is unsustainable. I mean, they are going to come a cropper, I think, at some stage.
It absolutely is unsustainable. They'll eventually get caught against a good side like potentially Roma here, and that might come to bite them if they don't put their foot on the pedal early, execute, and convert chances. They can't be expecting the last 10, 15 minutes of every match to take that late heroic advantage, whether it's a draw or a lead. For Roma, Lorenzo Pellegrini, Dybala will be critical to their success. They have made tactical shifts, I'd say, in rest rotations, which suggests Marino is prioritizing the Europa League here.
De Rossi.
Yeah, De Rossi. And the champions of the Bundesliga, right? Bayer Leverkusen, unbeaten in 47 matches without a loss, right? That's pretty historic. Will their run come to an end? I think they're both fairly evenly matched sides. I think both sides also, for Roma, it's important for them to qualify in the Champions League, might hinge on winning this competition. They are, however, in 5th in Serie A, so that is good for a Champions League spot, but I think they have a few teams 1 or 2 points behind them. So depending on how their season plays out in Serie A, this could be pivotal for them to get into the Champions League. But tough match to call. I think, again, I like the look of draw, especially in the first leg at that +245. Leverkusen, one would argue, based on their run, that you could easily pick them. But I wouldn't say Roma's a side that just completely overlooked here, especially at home in the first leg.
Steve, what's your thoughts on this one?
I think Roma were quite a big price in the first leg, actually. I quite like over 2.5 goals as well, actually, at -106. But history, when there's an Italian team involved in the semi-final at home, then history, I don't know, down the years, maybe it's just my imagination that Roma matches will feel quite tight. But imagine if Leverkusen were in the Premier League, by the way. Arsenal fans would be doing their nut, wouldn't they? Protecting the Invincibles run, all these late goals that they seem to score to keep the Invincible campaign going. There's something about this Leverkusen side. Maybe it's just their year, Dan. Maybe they won't come a cropper. Maybe just everything goes their way, and then next season maybe it fades away. I don't know.
I next year I'm going to set up a Twitter feed and I'm going to post a lay of Leverkusen in every single game. I think there's something has got to happen with them, and they will just lose in the 90th minute every other weekend instead of all these ridiculous draws. Well, draws at the moment and wins previously. Will, now talk us through your play here. Is this simply because of the position that we've got on the show? I presume it is a hedge. Will?
I think there's a difference between independent proactive plays and hedges in terms of the thought process of how you decide whether to pull the trigger or not. If I'm proactively placing an opening position style bet, then I'll look for a certain amount of implied value or expected value in terms of the odds being bigger than the true probability of that event happening. But when it comes to hedging, I've got a slightly different philosophy. For a big position like this, with 1 unit to win 20, I think it's prudent to potentially hedge at fair value. So, I actually think this plus 275 Roma to qualify might be a little bit too big. There might be some value there. I definitely don't think it's negative expected value. I think, if anything, it's neutral value, and I'm happy to place at 1 unit at least at this plus 275. In regards to Leverkusen, yes, their underlying data is not as strong as Bayern's. Yes, they have an incredible knack of scoring to save the game in added time, or certainly after the 80th minute. But also, how many matches have they lost the XG battle in all season in Bundesliga? Does anybody know?
Come on. I don't know. Come on, tell us.
2.
No.
Both Stuttgart games, they lost the XG battle.
Okay.
So
what's the
the
difference?
underlying data also suggests that they haven't been getting lucky, that they've deserved to not lose any of these matches, perhaps the Stuttgart games aside. And then also there was a game earlier in the season, the first game against Bayern, which was very, very level on the XG battle, depending on which data source you use. So, in my mind, it's undoubtable that this is a very, very strong team. The other thing I think they've got in their favor is energy. Roma, to me, just feel like they've had a lot of injuries, important injuries to important players all throughout the season. They started the season with a ton of injuries, the likes of Tammy Abraham, Chris Smalling, etc.
Just come back, has Abraham just come back?
Abraham's just come back. He's looked super rusty. Wouldn't expect him to start here. I don't know what Lukaku's status is. I'd expect him to play. Dybala certainly will. But, Lorenzo Pellegrini's been injured a lot of the season. They've just had a lot of injuries. And even though a lot of those players are coming back now, the cumulative effects of those injuries over the course of a very long season could potentially mean that they don't have the same energy levels of this Leverkusen team that has been blessed this season injury-wise, and also play 4 fewer domestic games as well over the course of the domestic season. So I think Leverkusen also have that in their favour. Having said that, this Roma team are dogged. They've come through against Feyenoord, they've come through against Brighton, they've come through against AC Milan. Dogs against Brighton.
Have they changed, Will, since De Rossi took over? I mean, if you look at when De Rossi took over, they've only been beaten 3 times. Inter, the champions, Brighton when it didn't matter, and Bologna, who are a sort of semi-special team, aren't they? Just the other week. Yeah. I mean, have they changed a little bit?
I think they've certainly, morale is much higher. I think they feel a lot better under club legend De Rossi than they did under Mourinho. That got a bit sour towards the end, as it often does with Mourinho. There was that kind of, during that early spurt of increased energy under De Rossi in his first few games, there was also an uptrend in their expected goals metrics, for and against. They looked like they could be perhaps opening up tactically. That subsided a little bit since, and they've kind of regressed to being a bit more solid defensively. But, they've been perennially underestimated in this tournament. I know we were on Feyenoord against them, but that was kind of, I can't remember whether Mourinho was still there then or not, or whether he'd been replaced by De Rossi.
Well, he'd just been replaced by De Rossi then.
Yeah. So, there was a lot more uncertainty about Roma then. We were on Feyenoord, but beating the Feyenoord, Brighton, AC Milan, that's no mean feat. This Roma team is pretty dangerous, and plus 275 is an implied 26% chance. I think that's a little bit low. Clearly, Leverkusen are favourites here. Clearly, we're still searching for the style of play that could be Leverkusen's kryptonite this season. Something tells me that Roma may fit that mould, though. Just their doggedness, just their spirit under De Rossi. Plus 275. You've really got to be taking your chances if you're betting Leverkusen to go through here at minus 350 or whatever they are. So yeah, happy to have a unit on Roma to qualify, plus 275. And even if Leverkusen go out now, we lock in 1.75 units profit. And if they go through to the final, we're still riding them for 20 units against hopefully our other outright pick in Atalanta.
Let's get to the conference, shall we? Futures look like this. Aston Villa plus 110, Fiorentina plus 175, Club Brugge plus 600, Olympiakos plus 900. Steve Villa on the board, of course, from a futures point of view. I think it was mentioned in the last show, but the final is in Athens. It's not at Olympiakos' stadium. They're a Piraeus club rather than Athens, technically. It's at AEK's. But Steve, 9-1 outsiders, should they be that sort of price? What do you make of the futures as it stands going into the semis?
I've said it all along. I think Aston Villa are just so much the side to beat. They are a high class outfit, and I wouldn't be wanting to bet against them. Emery's got a great record in European competitions down the years, and certainly saying a one-off final. I think he's tactically excellent as well. So. Plus 110, still think they're the side to beat, Aston Villa.
RJ, what are your thoughts on the futures?
Yeah, pretty simple. I think Aston Villa are the side to beat. Even though Olympiakos have that potential, if they did make it to the final, that it would be close to home. But even though they do have some pretty strong talent, I don't think they can keep up with any of the three other teams that are left in this competition.
Will, thoughts on the futures?
Yeah, Villa are justified favourites. I was more bullish on them when we backed them at plus 350, was it, earlier in the season? They've come in a lot since. They're plus 110 now. It's probably about right. Fiorentina could give them some trouble in the final. I don't think Olympiakos will, although they do have some weapons. But yeah, probably about right. Justified favourites, and yeah, I'm glad we're on them.
We have got some picks, obviously, when it comes to the conference from Will and from Steve. We'll get some thoughts from RJ as well as we go along. Let's get to the Villa Olympiakos game first of all, Thursday, 3 p.m. Will, your foot stop here. Villa minus 250, Olympiakos plus 550 for the first leg draw, plus 400 here. I don't know if domestically Villa's situation in the Premier League is a plus or a minus. The 7 clear of Spurs. Spurs have got games in hand. Can they fully focus on this? Is it not really an issue anyway for them, do you think?
I think this weekend is actually quite big for Villa. Pretty much sewn up that Champions League spot. And now I think they can go full throttle for this. I mean, and Spurs have got some tough fixtures coming up in the league, right? They've got Arsenal. No, they've got Man City and Liverpool.
Liverpool, yeah.
So yeah, I think Villa, it's definitely a positive for Villa in this competition, and I think we'll see them at full strength. I do have a play in this game. Do you want the play?
Yeah, look, I say full strength. I mean, Martinez is suspended for it, isn't he?
Yes.
That to me is a bit of an issue because I think there's a big drop off. Is it Robin Olsen who's going to play?
Yeah.
I think that he's such key, Martinez. A, because of the nonsense that he comes out with, and B, but Villa are all about they bait the press, they try and play through, they take what looks like ridiculous chances in their own penalty area, and he's a great distributor of the ball. He's a good keeper anyway. But you have got to play. You tweaked your play a little bit ahead of this. You were going to go both teams to score, yes. So that's nailed on, ladies and gentlemen, because Will's changed. But now you're gone for a goals play, Will.
Yeah, originally both teams to score, yes, at minus 104 looked good.
Nailed on.
It's now nailed on. Martinez being out is part of that. Like you say, it's a huge drop off to Olsen. Robin Olsen really has no business being a starting Premier League goalkeeper. With all due respect, but
my harsh on Robin Olsen. I hope his parents aren't watching. Anyway,
you started it, Dan. To be fair, so don't try and pretend you're not with me.
I am with you.
I switched last minute to over 2.75 goals at minus 114 because I've got. I think there's more chance of I think there's more chance of Villa covering this line on their own than there is a 1-1 draw, for example, or a 2-1 with a push where Olympiakos get on the score sheet, but you don't get the full win on the 2 3/4 goal line. So I've switched to that because I think Villa could potentially cover it on their own. And sometimes in betting, you've just got to keep things simple. I think Steve coined the phrase of riding the hot hand when it comes to trends and successes. And we've had a lot of success in this show, backing overs. There's barely been an unders pick. You do get the feeling sometimes that lines makers take this competition a bit too lightly and just hang lines that are there to give some advantage to bettors. And I think this could be one of them. Villa 15 of the last 19 over 2.5 in all comps. Olympiakos 14 of the last 19 over 2.5 in all comps. This Olympiakos defense is by no means watertight. They conceded in both legs against Fenerbahce. They conceded in both legs in a crazy 2 legs against Maccabi Tel Aviv. And Villa is a huge step up here. I find it hard to believe that Villa will score less than twice. And I could quite easily see them scoring 3 or more on their own. And then on the other hand, Villa aren't exactly watertight at the back. They play that super high line. They'll probably adopt that at home in this first leg. Against the offensive weapons that Olympiakos can bring, you've got the likes of Daniel Podence, Stefan Jovetic, and top scorer Ayoub El Kabi. They've got some weapons. They've got a propensity to get on the score sheet. Villa are only 6 clean sheets out of the last 20. And I think this is a great bet. Over 2.75 at, what price was it? -114.
That's where Daniel Podence is. Brief thoughts from RJ and Steve on this one. RJ, any sort of leans, any thoughts on Villa against Olympiakos first leg?
No, I agree with Will. I think Aston Villa clear favorites. I don't really have much of an opinion on any main line here. I mean, a lot of the notes that I have, you guys have already discussed, so I'll try to be brief. But this is this match marks the first European competition between Aston Villa and a Greek side. Both sides led by experienced Spanish managers, Unai Emery. Aston Villa have excelled at home in this competition, boasting a perfect record. Olympiakos under Jose Luis Mendilibar. Aston Villa just the strong side, unbeaten in their last 6 games across all competitions. Emi Martinez, as you said, the goalkeeper for Aston Villa, notable absence due to suspension. Olympiakos come in great form, only 1 loss in their last 7 matches. Ayoub El Kabi, as Will stated, is their standout performer. He scored 5 goals in 6 Europa Conference League matches. They have a pretty decent tactical approach. They leverage the pace and skill from, as we stated, Daniel Podence on the wings, former Wolves striker. And, Aston Villa potentially securing a top 5 spot in the Premier League, right? Underlining their resurgence under Emery. Olympiakos, their main goal is to reach the final because it's in Athens. It's in their nearby home. So that's their pride and joy if they can get there. But other than that, I think it's just pretty straightforward, cut and dry Aston Villa to advance here.
And Steve, brief thoughts on this one. I mean, RJ rightly mentions Mendilibar there. He's he won this competition last year. There's a little bit of. I'm trying to make a case for Olympiakos. No one's listening to me, Steve.
First of all, I can just imagine any. I can just imagine any Wolves fans watching this and hearing Will and RJ saying Daniel Podence is a threat. I think he was absolutely useless at Wolves, wasn't he? But he has been very good for Olympiakos, no doubt about it. I actually give Olympiakos. No, I don't give them a chance, but I think they can keep it close over the 2 legs. Villa, I don't believe have played anywhere near their best football in this competition. If we take away the 2 qualifying games against Hibs, doesn't really count against Scottish opposition, does it? They've only won 2 games by more than a 1-goal margin, and that was against AZ Alkmaar and a horrible Ajax side. They just laboured to wins, haven't they, at times in this comp? And I could see them doing the same again. I think they'll do enough, do enough to go through. This might only be a 1-goal win. And, for those, looking at Villa on the handicap, it's not an absolute banker. But over the 2 legs, you just can't see Olympiakos beating Villa over 2 legs, can you?
Fiorentina Club Brugge. Next up, 3 p.m. again on Thursday, the other semi-final. The Italian side -112, the Belgian club plus 300, and the draw plus 240. Steve, this is incredible. We've talked off air about Ronnie Dyler previously. They let him go, even though they're in a fair position. Nicky Hayen, and apologies to Nicky's friends and family, not a coach I know too well at all. But what a run he has got this Belgian side on here. What are your thoughts? And you have got a play for us in this one.
Yeah, I like Club Brugge on the plus 0.5 Asian handicap at -113. The previous match I got completely wrong. PAOK against Club Brugge. It's not often I lose a bet deservedly, Dan. Usually if I lose, I'm very unlucky, things like that. But I couldn't believe the performance that Club Brugge.
If you don't say so yourself, but anyway.
Yeah.
No, I don't.
That's a stonker.
I love the confidence. I love when I lose.
I don't.
It's not that often, ladies and gentlemen.
Steve reached out to me and during that match and was disgusted. I was like, all right, tell us how you feel.
I was staggered. Like, it was men against the boys. Club Brugge could have won that 4 or 5-0. They were so well coached. The players were on a footballing level were way superior, and I just got it completely wrong. And I had a good deep dive into this squad. It's actually probably a better squad than I gave it credit for. And I do wonder if Ronnie Dyler was the problem here at Club Brugge, because Nicky Hayen has come in and just revolutionized everything. And apparently he's given a lot more belief to the players. Tactically, they've been set up better. He's won every game in charge since he took over, apart from the first one, which was against Cercle Bruges. So, they've kept numerous clean sheets. If you look at their metrics in the games, they've been unreal. They've got
a shot at the title, haven't they? They've got a shot at the Belgian title after being off the pace.
Yeah, and because of the way they do their league in terms of the maths, which we need a whole show to discuss that, they could well win the league, and they're absolutely fine. I want to stick with the hot hand here. I think they can come and get at least a draw in the first leg against the Fiorentina side, and they can never get this team. Whenever I watch them, they never look that amazing. They're good, but without being anything special. I looked at in the Serie A table, they're overachieved defensively by over 10 goals. I think Daniele's often talks about the goalkeepers had a very good year. Pietro Terracciano, he's a veteran, but he's had a really strong year. Can he keep doing that? I think they've not even won their last 2 home games in this competition against Plzeň and Maccabi Haifa. I mean, they didn't need to win them in 90 minutes, I must add. And they found a way, obviously, to go through. But is this an amazing Fiorentina side? I'm not 100% convinced. So, Club Brugge really made a big impression on me, Dan, in that second leg in Greece. And since then, they've been brilliant domestically. There's a case to say, are they the best Belgian team? They're certainly playing the best football of any Belgian side right now. So I'm happy to back them to get at least a point here, get at least a draw in the first leg in Italy.
I'm a little bit surprised, RJ, you're not gone unders, because you had some shrewd unders plays with Fiorentina that have cashed for us. You've not got a play in this, but just give us a line. What do you think? Any leans? What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I had a hard time, coming to a conclusion on this match. Also, just because of Brugge.
Yeah, Brugge, go for it. I put it in the YouTube comments. Steve's ignoring it. I put a link in there for everyone to use. Just ignore me.
I pay attention, Dan. I
thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I think Brugge, their form domestically is as you both kind of alluded to. They have championship group, relegation groups. It's a complex situation, but their form domestically, 16 goals, 3 allowed in their last 6 matches in that table. I mean, they're bang on. They can't do no wrong, so to speak. And, they enter the semifinals with that momentum. So Fiorentina is not a side that, scares me. But I think Brugge will rely on Hugo Vittilsen, formerly of, I think I'm pretty close, Steve, formerly of Bodo Glimt from the Norwegian league, and then Andreas Skov Olsen, right, to capitalize on scoring opportunities there. Those are the two key pieces to this team, and they work through the midfield. And I think, they have a fully fit squad. Both sides have a fully fit squad as far as I last saw. So there's really no concerns with injuries. That big of a price, plus 300 on the road, I like your pick. I like your pick, Steve. I think for me, though, I don't know what Fiorentina will get at home, and I think it's just, maybe a challenge for this Belgian side to step out of the domestic competition and perform here. But they have a really good shot. Wouldn't be shocked if they overcome this.
Yeah, it is a step up. There's no doubt about that. Final thoughts from Will on this one. I mean, Thiago is the other player that they've got. I don't know if he's fit for Brugge. He's the player that Brentford have signed for about 40 million euros. Will, what's your take on this one? Any sort of leans, any angles for our listeners and viewers?
I think generally Belgian teams go underrated in general. We've spoken about Union Saint-Gilloise before many times on this show. And I do have Club Brugge rated as the best team in Belgium, and they've also got the strongest underlying stats this season. They were hugely impressive against PAOK in the last round. They crushed them on expected goals and limited them to basically nothing across both legs, even going away to Thessaloniki, which is not an easy place to go. It's Thessaloniki, is that right, Dan? PAOK?
I don't know. You've just dismissed my brother, so I'm not speaking to you
It's
about
a really tough place to go, and I didn't think PAOK crushed under pressure or anything. It's just they got outplayed, massively outplayed.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, this Bruges team, and no joke. And I think they're going underrated. At the same time, I don't think we can forget they're playing against a Serie A team, and a Serie A team that gets backed week in, week out in Asia by the Sharps. The syndicates like them for some reason. I'm not sure what it is. They are flattering to deceive. Their underlying data is not great. They're marginally in positive XG supremacy in Serie A this season, but there's something about them. And I think they're known as being one of these teams that kind of outperforms XG consistently, and perhaps that's why they get backed by the Sharps. But I don't think we can underestimate them. I know Fiorentina opened a lot shorter than this, and they've drifted quite a bit since. So I think, the price is a little bit skinny on Steve's bet, but gun to head, I think I'd be on his side over Fiorentina -0.5. So yeah, it's a good tie though, this one.
4 really good games across 2 competitions, and some value plays from the panel over the course of the last 35 minutes or so. That wraps up Betting Weekly Extra Time, Europa League and Conference League edition. Many thanks to Steve, Will and RJ, and you can stay up to date with all of the content from the Betting Weekly team on our YouTube channel. From all of us for now, though, it is goodbye.